Hi guys, Dibley here. This video is the second video in the series on Module 2. In the last video, I showed you how I built the baseboard. In this video, I'm going to show you how far we've got along. As you can see, we now have track, and we have a few other little things as well. So the track is all Peco Code 100, flexi track and streamline points. We've got a couple of large radius points for where the branch line comes in from the other module and runs out over that side. We have a three-way point. I did say I would never use these again, but I am using it again because without it I wouldn't actually have much siding room, and this module is all about the sidings really. I can just about fit 4 or 5 wagons per siding on there. Up here, that's a medium radius electrofrog point. We have a little siding here. That will be the head shunt for operating those sidings. They're kind of considered to be sort of private sidings, which is why we have a little gate. And then over there is a siding for putting guards fans, because I often found when I'm shunting on Dibs yard, there is nowhere really to put guards fans. The guards fan siding is protected with a catch point, which I've not used on the rest of the layout, but I thought I would on this one. Similarly, although the three sidings do not have a catch point, they have the head shunt that will sort of work as a catch point. As you'll see in a minute, the point for the siding and the catch point work simultaneously, and the same with that point and the guards fan siding. They will work simultaneously as well. I have just thrown a couple of models on just for a bit of an idea. This is the Bunter's Yard sand house, which I built quite a few months ago now. That's probably going to live there. And one of his little huts is probably going to live there. The sidings have got a bit of platform, and there's going to be the Maplin Mill from Bunter's Yard as well along here, and that will act as part of the back scene. The track is all laid on hardboard. I'm not too worried about the sound transmission. I would use cork if I had it, but I had plenty of hardboard and I didn't really want to go and buy a load of cork because everything is done on a budget. The track, each piece of track has droppers soldered to it with red at the front, back to the black, back to the black, black to the back, of course, which is a fairly often commonly used standard, I believe. The droppers are soldered to the underside of the wires. There is liberal use of insulating fish plates because all the points are wired to be electrofrog, and also because I run analogue, I need isolating sections. On the first module of Dibs Yard, my point control was rod in tube, and the rod is controlled by a double pole, double throw sliding switch. On the new module, I wanted to try something different. I wanted to have little levers to pull. So on here, we still have rod control, manual rod control, but it's with some levers. I'll show you the underside of the board so you can see how those work later on. I also wanted some other automation. So I've got a gate that's operated by another lever. On the other layout, you've probably seen that I have some passive point levers that operate when the points are moved. These were very basic on the first module, but on the second module, I've tried to make them a little bit better. Now, these are a little bit more chunky, but I'm hoping that the overall effect is much more pleasing. Hopefully once the scenery's round, it will kind of disguise them. These will be bedded in a little bit. But I think it's a compromise for the pleasure of seeing them waggle about like that. I'll live with the fact that they're slightly bigger than maybe they should be. One thing I've not tackled yet is the uncoupling ramps. The old module had a little push rod system. Pushing down these little levers will operate the uncoupling ramp. I have a video about that somewhere earlier on my channel. The new ones that will go here are going to be slightly different, and I'm hoping that I might be able to use some little levers like this to control them. But at the moment I'm waiting for some springs to arrive. I've ordered 2 packets of them, and so far both of them have managed to get stuck at the Yodel distribution centre. For some reason they obviously just don't like posting off springs. There are some other subtle changes between the first module that you're seeing here and the new module. The first module, the switches for powering the next module or the fiddle yard are mounted here. On this module they are mounted here. Oops, honestly you can get your finger in there to operate it. It is a bit fiddly, but it does mean that it's not here where I need some scenics. Another change you may have noticed is I've changed the design of my power connection. This uses banana plugs. The problem is the way I did these, they actually end up getting pushed into the baseboard because the glue gradually sort of dies. These ones are surface mounted and screwed in, so you won't be able to push those in, so that should be an improvement on the last one. The baseboards are screwed together with 6mm Allen headed bolts. This position here is where normally the fiddle yard would have been on, but I've made sure that everything stays universal so you can configure the boards in a number of different setups. Those bolts go into a captive nut, again obviously M6. The track at the baseboard joints is kept in place with a lot of small pins going through copper-clad sleepers, and then obviously with their rails soldered to the copper-clad sleepers. A little bit of hard plywood to hold everything in place. Hopefully that will give me a high level of robustness and continuity when joining the baseboards. It seems to have worked with the fiddle yards, so I'm hoping between the 2 scenic boards it will work just as well. You might have noticed here there's some lifted track using the Bunter's Yards laser cut sleepers. Well, that there is to sort of help simulate where this siding used to go when this was a double track station. Well, double track yard anyway, in a single halt, and it went along there, but they obviously lifted it and it sort of peters out and would have joined onto single track there. Right, not much more to show you on the top, so let's flip the board over and have a look underneath. But before we do that, let's have a look at the alignment dowels. So previously this scenic board had these 2 female dowels and the hole for the 6mm bolt to go through. That was for the fiddle yard, so that is the same on both ends of the scenic board. We've now got an additional 6mm threaded insert in there and another female alignment dowel hole. Oh, looks like it's pushed back a little bit. Might have to double check that. On the second module we have the 2 male alignment dowel holes and a clearance hole for the 6mm bolt. So they would be the same as we would find for the fiddle yards. They both have the same setup. And there is the additional male dowel with the additional 6mm clearance hole for bolting them together. At the exhibition I shall be going to at the end of October, they've only booked me for the first original scenic module because the second module was not even in my head at the time of the booking. So I will just be using those 2 dowels and that hole with the ordinary fiddle yard. It's all fully backward compatible and maybe even sideways compatible too. Much of the track is wired, but not all of it. As you can see, I've used liberal use of clone Wagos. They look the same as Wagos, but they haven't got the branding, so maybe they even come out the same factory, I don't know. These are all hot glued onto the base and are really simple for connecting wires. And if there's any problems during an exhibition, it should be really easy to sort of loop an emergency wire from one of the connectors across to another one if there's any issues. Here we can see that little recessed switch using a 3D printed bracket to hold it. And there's my where the power comes into the board from another module. You can see some of the point control is all done with rods, either 1.1mm or 1.5mm piano wire. 3D printed clamps and brackets. These little clamps allow the wire to pass through. Some little other levers and things just to change the direction of the wires. Let's move one and see what happens. As you can see, moving this lever here moves this little quadrant, and then from the quadrant we have a 1.5mm wire to a 90-degree quadrant with a slight offset to add support, and back the other way we have another quadrant, and again that little offset relay type thing to basically to get the motion across the board and also change the direction. The point frogs are all live frog, so with that in mind you need switches to change the polarity for the frog. So I'm using some very simple slide switches. They are a bit cheap, so I hope they continue to work. I may have to upgrade these to slightly larger ones if necessary. And oops, and as you can see, they are controlled by the point linkage there. Hopefully they will work. One of them's a bit lazy, but just have to make sure that you push the lever. And we've got some other ones over here. So the same lever that controls the point also controls the switch. I've still got one more to put in because I have not, or actually one more pair to put in because I haven't done all of them yet. You may be interested to see how the gate is operated. It's a little white lever there. So again, another little push rod through to a little arm that's fitted to a very thin bit of wire that goes up through the baseboard, and that turns the gate. You have to be very gentle with this one. This is very delicate and probably won't survive very long, I would imagine. Not with my clumsy hands anyway. Along with most of the quadrants, the little upstands are all 3D printed as well on my Ender 3, so they are printed with FDM. Most of what you're seeing here is all FDM printed, designed on Tinkercad, and then printed, reworked, designed again and printed. There's a lot of trial and error in most of this, but it's been good fun. The pivots, these screws are shouldered screws, and they are from Tamiya. Not sure if I'll be able to get any more, which is a bit of a shame because I do actually need some more and I have run out of them. Hopefully I can find some on eBay. All the dropper wires, of which I have one for every single piece of track. Yes, I know I'm not using DCC, but I want to be sort of DCC ready for the future if ever I do actually get the funds to go fully DCC. But all the dropper wires, they're all done with speaker wire, and I think it's 7 times 0.2 sort of size, same sort of gauge anyway. These all come to Wagos, and then from the Wagos the power will be supplied to those. These will go to isolating switches on the control panel in the end, because each siding needs to be able to be switched off. I'm going to have to move all these wires because actually I put them all in before I realised the uncouplers and those are going to be fighting for the same place. It's fine, they're only hot glued. I can pop them off and move them to somewhere else more appropriate. I've got plenty of wire so I can shuffle them around as need. There's a lone little quadrant there. What do you reckon that's for? Well, this module's actually going to have signalling, unlike the other module. So I need to do a little bit more work on these, but they will control a ratio signal with a home and a distant on it. I'm not sure whether that's going to be the right signal, but it will add a little bit of visual interest, and I'm sure I will forget to operate the signal and drive through the signal in the off position many a time. As we sweep across the board, the last thing for me to say is thank you very much for watching. I hope you found some of this video interesting. And keep an eye out for another update. It might not be for a while, because I've got some work to do on my daughter's layout, Merridale, which is also going to the exhibition at the end of this month. So with that in mind, I probably need to finish doing this video, go and get ready for the day, and actually start working on her layout. Thanks for watching. I'm Dibley.